I have so many thoughts on Governor Ronald Desantis, but I'll only say a few of them here. First and foremost, I find him totally insufferable and terrible in terms of policies, and in terms of just the way he is, like the way he's just so desperately trying to gain attention and gain relevance and gain traction and footing for his imminent, inevitable presidential run. Like the way he's just trying to really throw red meat to the GOP base. And I know this is a disgusting picture of his close-up picture of his mouth, but yeah. But anyway, the way he's just like posturing and virtue signaling to the right wingers, like it's just really annoying and disgusting. And the way he first came on the scene by really sucking on Donald Trump, like, and it's just all cringy and annoying. But apparently the red hat MAGA people and the Republicans eat that up, and the donors love him. So it's possible that Ronald DeSantis, is the one who becomes the nominee in 2024. So, yeah. And of course, if it's a very awful corporate neoliberal running on the other side, then, well, Ron DeSantis might be president, and that would be horrible. But I will say that if by some miracle Ron DeSantis maybe loses the governor's race in 2022, if by some miracle, obviously, because I think it's just likely that he just wins re-election, but if he loses in some, like, if there's like a 0.001 chance that he loses, then it would obviously hurt him. But I mean, I'm not really sure even that would matter because, um, James Polk, he lost the gubernatorial re-election campaign. He was governor of Tennessee, had been Speaker of the House of Representatives, and then he became the governor of Tennessee, and then he ran for re-election and lost. James Polk lost re-election for governor, but he ran for president later and won. So it's possible Ron DeSantis takes the same path, even if he loses the governor's election. So that'd be scary. But yeah, overall, before I go on, I do want to say I'm actually not convinced that Ron DeSantis would win a Republican primary. I'm not. And I'm not really sure that he would win a general election either. I mean, if he's running against someone really horrible and just terrible, like Peter Buttigieg or Kamala Harris, although there is a 0% chance that Kamala Harris makes it through a Democratic primary nomination. Like, there's no way she would get it. And with Peter Buttigieg, there's like a 0.001% chance that he makes it to the nomination. So I wouldn't worry about them, but they could still find someone worse who just loses, like John Kerry, or I mean, John Kerry will be like 80 years old in 2024, but like point is, 81 years old or something. But the point is, they could find someone awful and who would lose to Ron DeSantis. But yeah, but obviously, I'm not necessarily sure that Ron DeSantis could even win a Republican primary or general election, because once he gets outside of Florida, maybe more people will see him and they'll be like, no, we want someone, like maybe the Republican base will see him and then they're like, no, we actually want someone even crazier and even worse. This guy's not crazy or bad enough. And then the rest of the country might, if he still makes it through a nomination, maybe the rest of the country will be like, yeah, no, not this guy. So it depends. It remains to be seen. But the thing is, Ron DeSantis, he's very afraid to attack Donald Trump. And as I've said, I'm not really sure that Donald Trump will necessarily last until 2024. He's already 76 years old. He's turning 76 on June 14th. So, I mean, will he be able to run for president when he's 78 years old? Who knows? And like, he is overweight, and he was like sweating like so horribly in this recent video I saw. But I mean, who knows? But the point is if Donald Trump runs again, would Ron DeSantis run in 2024 primary? I think Ron DeSantis is the type of Ted Cruz style cuck who would just cuck himself to Donald Trump and suck on his boot or something. Not that Donald Trump actually wears boots. I'm not really sure what kind of shoes he wears. I don't really care. But the point is, Ron DeSantis appears to be the kind of guy who would cuck to Donald Trump, but Ron DeSantis also has a massively fat ego, just like his, I shouldn't say that, but like, I shouldn't like make fun of people who are overweight like Ron DeSantis, and others. But I mean, the point is, I mean, nothing wrong with being overweight, but my point is, Ron DeSantis has a big ego, and I'm not sure that his ego would allow him, maybe wouldn't allow him to cut to Trump, so maybe him and Donald Trump go at it on the debate stage, and it becomes a really big clown show, and it's so entertaining or something. Who knows? But the way that Ron DeSantis is just afraid to attack Donald Trump directly is just very pathetic and cowardly, and it just makes me dislike Ron DeSantis more. And the way that Donald Trump is also afraid to attack Ron DeSantis directly is also very cowardly and somewhat telling, because maybe Donald Trump thinks that Ronald DeSantis is the one who can out crazy him. So who knows? Now I'll talk about some of the other Republicans. Tom Cotton has negative charisma. His policies are terrible, and Tom Cotton is like Dick Cheney on steroids, so that's horrible, and hopefully he never gets any power. Like, imagine if Ron DeSantis became president and made like Tom Cotton Secretary of State. Like, that would just be the biggest disaster ever. Like, Tom Cotton would like make Henry Kissinger jealous. Like, it would not be like, it would just be horrendous. But yeah, I mean, I think if Tom Cotton ran for president, he would just fail miserably because he's boring. Like like all he can do is just openly be a war criminal, warmonger, but he says it in like such a boring way too, like a scary way, a horrible scary way, but also in like such a boring way, like no one would like him. Nikki Haley has already lost, like she has no relevance. Who else? Mike Pompeo. He's yeah, no, I mean, no one likes him. I will say with Mike Pompeo, I'll say the same thing about Mike Pompeo that I said about Madeleine Albright, in that I give Mike Pompeo and Madeleine Albright credit for negotiating with North Korea, but that's where the credit ends. Mike Pompeo and his devastating sanctions towards Iran, Madeleine Albright and her devastating sanctions towards Iraq and their various war crimes, like, no. But I will give them credit for North Korea negotiations, but yeah, that's all. And with John Kerry, he's also horrible, but I will give him credit for Iran nuclear deal. But going back on subject, would Tim Scott be successful in a Republican primary? No, I mean, he's just not very good at presenting himself and talking necessarily, and he's just there for identity politics purposes, and they don't like him. For various reasons. Obviously, Lindsey Graham would have no chance. Like, come on, that would be such a joke. Condoleezza Rice, yeah, no one likes her. Colin Powell, well, he's dead, so obviously he's not going to run. Dick Cheney, I mean, maybe he'll still be alive then. I mean, he'll be like 83 years old, and he had his first heart attack when he was 37, and several heart attacks since then. He's also had his heart switched with the transplant, and I mean, imagine if Dick Cheney won in 2024. That would be so horrible, but it's just unrealistic. And before we go, and I don't really feel like going through all the clowns and horrible, wacky characters in the Republican primary system. Potentially, like potential Republican primary, like I don't really feel like going through all those losers, but I mean, one of them might win if the corporate Democrats are just so horrible. Like, but the point is, obviously, I believe that progressives should run John Fetterman or Keith Ellison or Nina Turner or Gary Chambers or Charles Booker or possibly Mandela Barnes. Who I mean, we will see, but they should run a strong progressive candidate who will win. And I've also made videos on maybe Bernie Sanders 2024, which he hasn't ruled out. So check that out as well. A final thing is, it is definitely true that Ronald DeSantis and Donald Trump hate each other. And it is also very true that many presidents and vice presidents, most of them in fact, hate each other. Dick Cheney and George Bush, even though they were both horrible on the same policy issues, they hated each other. Barack Obama and Joe Biden, they hate each other. Donald Trump and Michael Pence really hate each other. Andrew Jackson and John Calhoun hated each other. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson really hated each other. Let's see. By the way, Andrew Jackson actually threatened to shoot John Calhoun or something, or like hang or something. Like, it was just like, it was so horrible. Anyway, Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr., they hate each other too. George Bush Sr. and Dan Quayle probably don't like each other. Um, Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew absolutely hated each other, and obviously Spiro Agnew once claimed that Richard Nixon threatened to off him. So, wonder if that's true because Nixon and Agnew are both pathological liars. But I mean, that just goes to show you how terrible their relationship was. Oh, and by the way, that was like Richard Nixon saying, "Hey, Spiro Agnew, if you don't resign, I might have to do something to you." Like that. That was that. Yeah, we could go through the list, but oh yeah, John Nance Garner and FDR. I mean, although FDR and John Nance Garner, I mean, they didn't like each other either. They hated each other. I mean, they were seen having fun at parties, but maybe that was just a public appearance. And FDR didn't really like Harry S. Truman either. I mean, FDR did like Henry Wallace, but yeah. Oh, LBJ and JFK absolutely hated each other so much. And we can go through so many, but most presidents and vice presidents hate each other. So yeah, theoretically, if Donald Trump was president and Ronald DeSantis was vice president, theoretically, it wouldn't like be out of the norm because it's normal for presidents and vice presidents to hate each other. Except Ron DeSantis cannot be the vice president to Donald Trump. He cannot be Donald Trump's VP. You know why? Because the Electoral College, the way it works in the Constitution is that the electors of one state cannot give their electoral votes to both the presidential nominee and vice presidential nominee if the presidential nominee and vice presidential nominee are both from the same state, if they both reside in the same state. So remember how in 2000, Dick Cheney was George Bush's running mate? And George Bush was the governor of Texas, whereas Richard Cheney had a house in Texas. So if it had been that way, then the electors from Texas would not have been able to give their electoral votes to George Bush and Dick Cheney. So Dick Cheney permanently relocated to Wyoming. He made Wyoming his permanent residence. And he sold his property in Texas, got rid of it completely so that he would be counted as a Wyoming resident. And so that's how they avoided not being able to get Texas electoral votes. So the way it would work is if in some crazy universe Donald Trump and Ronald DeSantis were on the same ticket and they won the state of Florida, which they probably would win the state of Florida if they ran together or even if one of them ran, the electors from Florida is going to have 30 electoral votes in 2024. The electors from Florida would not be able to give those 30 electoral votes to Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis because they're from the same state of Florida. So Donald Trump would have to pick someone who is not from that same state. Like, it would just have to be someone from a different state. Or maybe Donald Trump would have to sell Mar-a-Lago and just move back to New York or somewhere else. Like, it just would not work. And in terms of, yeah, so the point is that's a big hurdle because even if Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis win, they would win. I don't think the election would be too far off. I don't think it would be like a 500 electoral votes landslide unless the Democrat nominee is as horrible as Walter Mondale or Michael Dukakis. But the point is, it might be a close election, and if they can't get 30 electoral votes, then that would just be a liability. Now, I mean, obviously Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are idiots, so they maybe don't know that rule in the Constitution, but they probably had no intention of being on the same ticket anyway, so I don't think it matters at all. I will say, also as a final note, vice presidents almost never become president. Kamala Harris is the 49th vice president. There have been 49 vice presidents. 34 of them never became president. So this very stupid idea that the vice president is always a president, always becomes president, is just very stupid and not true at all. Completely false. And the idea that the vice president becomes a nominee of the party is also completely false because it has happened fairly often recently, but it also has not happened a lot. Like, there's a lot of times when the vice president just fails in the nomination process, just fails in the primary, or just fails. Like, things are not a cakewalk for the vice president. And the vice president just becomes really irrelevant, and no one even remembers like who they were afterwards. Like, no one remembers Dan Quayle. No one remembers Dan Quayle. No one remembers Spiro Agnew. No one remembers Nelson Rockefeller. No one remembers Garrett Hobart, even though Garrett Hobart was actually a very powerful vice president. He had a lot of authority because William McKinley gave him a lot of privileges. And no one remembers Thomas Marshall. No one remembers Levi Morton. No one remembers Thomas Hendricks. No one remembers Henry Wilson. No one remembers Schuyler Colfax. No one remembers William King. I mean, William King was only vice president for 6 weeks because he died, but yeah, but the point is, like, a lot of people just get forgotten. So if in some crazy universe Ron DeSantis became the vice president, he would just fade into irrelevance, most likely. So, yeah, Ron DeSantis is a horrible character, and he could be a very big threat. He is a very big threat, but will he make it very far in the 2024 Republican primary? I'm not sure. We will have to see. Hopefully not.